Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Aurora, and welcome to Twin Flame Journey, a space where we explore the deeper meaning behind soul connections, divine timing, and the path that leads two hearts back to union. If you've been feeling the signs, you're in the right place.
Many people begin the twin flame journey believing there is a final destination, a moment where everything finally makes sense, a moment when the running stops, the pain disappears, and the longing that has lived inside the soul for so long finally finds peace. For many, that moment has a name: union. It is often imagined as the ultimate reward after years of emotional chaos, spiritual awakening, separation, and healing. People picture it like the final scene of a movie, two souls finally standing side by side after overcoming impossible obstacles. And in that moment, everything should be perfect. But here is the truth that few people talk about. Union is not the end of the journey. In fact, for many twin flames, union is the moment the real journey begins. At first, this idea can feel confusing. After all the pain, the longing, the growth, the sleepless nights asking the universe why this connection exists, how could union not be the final answer? But the twin flame path was never designed to end in comfort. It was designed for evolution. To understand this, imagine climbing a mountain. For years you struggle up the steep path. You stumble, fall, get lost, and sometimes even question whether the summit exists at all. Every step requires strength you did not know you had. Then finally, after what feels like an eternity, you reach a beautiful plateau. The view is breathtaking. The air is clear. The struggle seems worth it. For a moment, you believe you have reached the top. But then you lift your eyes, and in the distance you see another mountain rising even higher. That moment, that realization is what union often feels like. Not an ending, but a doorway. A doorway into a deeper level of the journey. Because when two twin flames finally come together in union, something extraordinary happens. The connection stops being theoretical. It stops being distant. It stops living only in dreams, signs, synchronicities, and telepathic moments. It becomes real. And when something this powerful becomes real, it begins to reveal layers that were impossible to see before. Many people believe that once union happens, all wounds magically disappear. But the opposite is often true. Union creates a space where the deepest parts of the soul are finally exposed. Think about it. Throughout separation, much of the connection exists at a distance. There is longing, reflection, growth, and healing that happens individually. But when two twin flames finally stand face to face in union, the mirror becomes stronger than ever. The things you thought you had healed may appear again. Old fears might surface. Hidden insecurities may rise to the surface in unexpected ways. Not because the journey failed, but because the soul is now ready to heal at an even deeper level. Imagine two people who spent years learning about themselves, growing independently, and preparing for this moment. Now they are together, and suddenly they begin to notice something surprising. Small differences. Old emotional triggers. Moments where one person's fear meets the other person's vulnerability. At first, this can be confusing. Some might even wonder if something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. This is the next stage of the journey. Because true union is not about becoming perfect. It is about learning how to grow together. Before union, much of the healing happens individually. After union, the healing becomes shared. You begin to see parts of yourself reflected in your twin flame in ways that are impossible to ignore. Sometimes it is beautiful. Sometimes it is uncomfortable. But it is always transformative. For example, imagine a couple who spent years apart during their twin flame separation. One of them had a deep fear of abandonment created by childhood experiences. During the separation, they worked hard on self-love and independence. The other carried a deep fear of losing freedom. They spent years learning how to trust love without feeling trapped. Eventually, after many cycles of running and chasing, they find their way back to each other. Union finally happens. At first, everything feels magical. But slowly, something interesting begins to unfold. The one who fears abandonment occasionally feels anxious, when their partner becomes quiet or distant for a moment. The one who fears losing freedom sometimes feels overwhelmed by the intensity of the connection. These old patterns begin to appear again. But this time, something is different. Instead of running away, they stay. Instead of blaming each other, they talk. Instead of repeating the old cycle, they learn. And this is where the real beauty of union begins. Because union is not the moment when all problems disappear. It is the moment when two souls become strong enough to face their shadows together. In many ways, union creates a sacred space. A space where growth accelerates. A space where healing happens faster because both people are holding the mirror for each other. A space where love becomes a teacher. Think about the power of that. Two people committed not just to loving each other, but to evolving together. Not running from discomfort. Not hiding from truth. But walking through transformation side by side. And this is why union can feel both peaceful and intense at the same time. Peaceful because the soul finally recognizes home. Intense because the soul knows the journey is far from finished. The universe did not bring twin flames together simply to create a romantic relationship. It brought them together to create expansion. Expansion of awareness. Expansion of compassion. Expansion of consciousness. And that expansion continues long after union. In fact, many people discover that once union happens, their spiritual awakening deepens even further. Their intuition becomes stronger. Synchronicities increase. Their understanding of their life purpose becomes clearer. It's as if the energy created by the union opens new doors that were previously invisible. Suddenly, the connection is no longer only about the two of them. It begins to ripple outward. Their growth begins to affect others. Their love begins to inspire people around them. And slowly, they realize something profound. This journey was never only about finding each other. It was about becoming the people they were meant to be. Union is simply the moment when that mission truly begins. So, if you're someone who believes that union is the final destination of the twin flame journey, consider this possibility. What if union is not the end of the story? What if it is the first chapter of a completely new one? A chapter where love becomes a path of continuous growth. A chapter where healing never stops. A chapter where two souls walk forward, not because the journey is easy, but because it is meaningful. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all is this. When union happens, you are not reaching the finish line. You are stepping into the next stage of your soul's evolution. And the adventure that follows may be even more extraordinary than the journey that brought you there. For many people walking the twin flame path, the idea of union carries a powerful dream. It is often imagined as the moment when everything finally falls into place. The struggles end. The emotional storms calm down. The pain of separation dissolves into peace. And the connection that once felt overwhelming becomes effortless. This belief is so common that many people unconsciously shape their entire journey around it. They endure the pain of separation with the hope that one day, when union finally arrives, life will feel complete. But here is a truth that many people only discover after union happens. The idea of happily ever after is often an illusion. Not because the love is not real. Not because the connection is not sacred. But because the purpose of the twin flame journey has never been about reaching a permanent state of comfort. It has always been about growth. Human beings naturally search for a place where struggle ends. We want a moment when the work is done, when we can finally rest, when life becomes easy and predictable. Fairy tales reinforce this idea. Stories often end the moment the two lovers reunite. The final scene shows them embracing, smiling, walking into the sunset together. The screen fades to black, and the audience assumes the rest of their lives will be peaceful. But real life does not work that way. Relationships do not freeze in perfect moments. People continue to grow. Life continues to change. And even the deepest love must evolve. The same is true, perhaps even more strongly, for twin flames. Because a twin flame relationship is not only a relationship, it is a spiritual catalyst. It exists to awaken parts of the soul that would otherwise remain asleep. And awakening rarely happens in comfort. Imagine two mirrors facing each other. Each mirror reflects the other endlessly. Layer after layer, reflection after reflection, going deeper and deeper. This is often what it feels like when two twin flames reach union. During separation, each person does a great deal of inner work alone. They heal wounds, confront fears, and learn to stand on their own emotionally and spiritually. But once they come together again, something new begins. The mirror becomes stronger. Suddenly, the parts of yourself you thought were hidden begin to appear in your partner. If you carry self-doubt, you may notice moments where your twin flame reflects that insecurity back to you. If your partner still holds unresolved fears, those fears may surface in the relationship in subtle ways. And sometimes this can be surprising. After everything the two of you went through to reach union, you might expect life to feel simple. But instead, the connection becomes deeper, more honest, more revealing, and sometimes more challenging. This does not mean the relationship is failing. It means the relationship is alive. One of the greatest misunderstandings about love is the belief that the right partner will eliminate all inner conflict. But the deepest relationships do something very different. They expose what still needs healing. And the twin flame connection does this with incredible intensity. Because your twin flame is not simply someone you love. They are someone who reflects your soul with remarkable clarity. Imagine a person who spent years believing they had overcome their fear of being rejected. They learned independence. They built confidence. They developed strong emotional boundaries. Then union happens. And for a while, everything feels calm and beautiful. But one day, their twin flame becomes quiet after a stressful day. Nothing dramatic, just a moment of distance. Suddenly, an old feeling appears, a familiar anxiety in the chest. A small voice inside asks, "Did I do something wrong?" The fear of rejection briefly returns. Now, this moment could be interpreted in two ways. The person could think the relationship is unstable, or they could realize something deeper. The wound was never completely gone. It was simply waiting for the right environment to be healed fully. And union created that environment. In this way, union does not erase wounds. It illuminates them, not to create pain, but to offer an opportunity for deeper healing. When two twin flames understand this truth, their relationship becomes something extraordinary. Instead of reacting with fear when old patterns appear, they begin to approach those moments with curiosity. They ask questions instead of making assumptions. They communicate instead of withdrawing. They support each other's growth instead of blaming each other for emotional triggers. Over time, something remarkable happens. The relationship transforms from a source of emotional chaos into a space of conscious growth. It becomes a place where two people are not trying to avoid challenges. They are learning how to face them together. This is very different from the fairy tale idea of happily ever after. Fairy tales suggest that love removes difficulties. But the twin flame journey reveals something more powerful. Love gives us the courage to confront them. Think about the difference. In one version of love, happiness comes from escaping conflict. In the other, happiness comes from growing through it. Twin flames often discover that their greatest breakthroughs as a couple happen after difficult conversations. After moments where vulnerability replaces pride. After they choose honesty instead of emotional defense. These moments strengthen the bond in ways that superficial harmony never could. And this is why union is not the quiet ending of a story. It is the beginning of a new kind of partnership. A partnership where both people are committed not only to love, but to conscious evolution. In this stage of the journey, love becomes more than emotion. It becomes a practice of listening deeply, a practice of seeing each other clearly, a practice of choosing growth even when it feels uncomfortable. And through this practice, something beautiful emerges. The relationship becomes stronger than either person could have created alone. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. Real love does not pretend that life will always be easy. Real love understands that life will bring challenges. But it also knows that facing those challenges together creates something far more meaningful than a perfect illusion. So when people ask whether union means the journey is finished, the answer becomes clearer. Union does not mark the end of the story. It marks the moment when the story becomes deeper, where love stops being a distant dream and becomes a living experience, where growth continues, but now it happens side by side, and where the illusion of happily ever after is replaced by something far more powerful. A love that grows. A love that evolves. A love that continues to transform both souls, day after day. Because the true magic of the twin flame journey was never the moment you finally reached union. The true magic is what happens after you get there. When many people imagine the moment of twin flame union, they picture a kind of spiritual arrival. A destination. A final chapter where the difficult lessons are behind them, the emotional storms have passed, and the long journey of self-discovery finally settles into peace. In their minds, union is like reaching the top of a mountain after years of climbing. The path was exhausting, the terrain unpredictable, but once the summit is reached, the struggle is over. You can finally rest. But what if the mountain was never meant to be the end of the journey? What if reaching the summit simply reveals a larger landscape, a vast horizon filled with new mountains yet to climb? This is the deeper truth of the twin flame journey. Union is not the point where growth stops. It is the point where a new level of growth begins. And often, this realization surprises people, because the years leading to union are usually filled with intense transformation. During separation, both individuals are pushed into deep inner work. They confront old wounds. They learn self-love. They release unhealthy attachments. They build independence and emotional strength. By the time union finally happens, many believe the hardest work has already been completed. But the twin flame connection operates differently from ordinary relationships. Instead of removing the need for growth, union actually expands it.
Why?
Because when two souls with such a deep energetic bond come together, the connection amplifies everything. Love becomes deeper. Joy becomes stronger. But so does awareness. The parts of the self that once remained hidden now become impossible to ignore. It is similar to turning up the brightness on a light. Suddenly, details that were once invisible begin to appear. This does not mean something is wrong with the connection. It means the connection is powerful enough to support deeper evolution. Think about how human beings grow. Growth rarely happens when everything is comfortable and predictable. True growth often appears when we are challenged to see ourselves more clearly. And in a twin flame union, this clarity becomes almost unavoidable. Your partner becomes a mirror not only for your strengths, but also for the parts of yourself that still need attention. For example, imagine someone who spent years learning how to become emotionally independent during the separation phase. They learned not to rely on others for validation. They developed self-confidence. They built a stable sense of identity. Then union happens. Suddenly, they are in a deeply intimate partnership again. And something unexpected begins to surface. Despite all their growth, moments appear where they still seek reassurance from their partner. A small voice inside asks, "Do they still choose me? Am I enough?" At first, this might feel discouraging. After all the work they did on themselves, why would these feelings return? But the answer is simple. The presence of the twin flame creates an emotional depth that few other relationships can match. And within that depth, subtle layers of the self become visible. Instead of being a setback, this moment becomes an invitation. An invitation to move from intellectual understanding to embodied growth. Before union, much of the healing happens within the individual. After union, growth begins to happen within the relationship itself. This is where the journey becomes truly powerful. Because growth shared between two conscious individuals has the ability to transform both people in extraordinary ways. Imagine two twin flames who have reached union after years of separation. They have both matured individually. They respect each other's independence. They understand the spiritual nature of their connection. Yet, as they begin building a life together, they discover that real partnership requires a different kind of evolution. Small everyday situations become opportunities for growth. Perhaps one partner struggles with vulnerability and finds it difficult to express emotional needs. The other partner may be learning patience and deeper listening. In these moments, the relationship becomes a classroom. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every misunderstanding becomes a doorway into deeper understanding. Instead of avoiding these moments, conscious twin flames begin to welcome them. Not because challenges are enjoyable, but because they recognize the purpose behind them. Each challenge carries the possibility of transformation. Each moment of honesty strengthens trust. Each act of compassion deepens the bond between them. Over time, something beautiful begins to happen. Growth stops feeling like a burden. It begins to feel like a shared adventure. The two people are no longer simply trying to maintain a relationship. They are actively participating in each other's evolution. And this dynamic creates a powerful sense of partnership. Because when two people support each other's growth, the connection becomes more resilient. It becomes capable of withstanding the natural changes that life brings. Life will always contain uncertainty. Careers shift. Circumstances change. Personal identities evolve. But when growth is embraced rather than feared, these changes stop threatening the relationship. Instead, they become part of the journey. In fact, many twin flames discover that their personal development accelerates after union. Their awareness expands more quickly. Their emotional intelligence deepens. Their spiritual understanding continues to unfold. It is almost as if the energy of the union activates a new stage of awakening. The two souls begin exploring questions they never considered before. What is our shared purpose? How can we support each other's highest potential? What kind of life are we meant to create together? These questions open doors to new possibilities. Perhaps they feel inspired to pursue creative projects. Perhaps they feel drawn toward helping others through their experiences. Perhaps their connection simply encourages them to live with greater authenticity. Whatever form it takes, the relationship becomes a catalyst for expansion. And this expansion is one of the greatest gifts of the twin flame journey, because it reveals something profound about love. Love is not meant to keep us the same. Love is meant to transform us. Many people search for relationships that feel safe because they do not challenge their identity. But the twin flame connection is different. It invites both people to become more than they were before. It gently, and sometimes intensely, encourages them to release outdated versions of themselves. In this way, union becomes less about finding completion in another person, and more about discovering new dimensions of the self through connection. Two individuals who are already growing separately now grow together, and the journey becomes richer because of it. So if someone asks whether growth stops once twin flames reach union, the answer becomes clear. Growth does not stop. Growth expands. It moves beyond individual healing and becomes a shared path of evolution. Two souls walking side by side, supporting each other, challenging each other, inspiring each other. Not because the journey demands perfection, but because the journey invites transformation. And perhaps this is one of the most beautiful realizations of the twin flame path. Union is not the final chapter where the story ends. It is the chapter where growth becomes a shared adventure, where love becomes a force that continuously expands both souls, and where every new step forward reveals just how much more there is still to discover. When people imagine the moment of twin flame union, many assume that healing has finally reached its conclusion. The long nights of emotional reflection, the deep inner work, the painful cycles of separation and reunion, all of it, they believe, was leading toward a moment when the wounds of the past would finally disappear. In this vision, union represents the end of pain, the moment when two souls finally stand together free from the burdens that once weighed on them. And for a brief time, it can truly feel that way. The energy of union often carries a profound sense of peace. The connection feels natural, familiar, and deeply comforting. After years of longing, the soul recognizes something it has always known: home. But as time moves forward, many twin flames discover something surprising. Even in union, healing continues. Not because the journey failed, not because the connection was an illusion, but because healing is not a destination that we reach once and for all. It is an ongoing process. Human beings carry layers of experiences inside them. Childhood memories, past relationships, personal disappointments, fears about the future. All of these become part of our emotional landscape. During the separation phase of the twin flame journey, much of the healing happens internally. Each person confronts their past, examines their patterns, and begins to release old emotional baggage. By the time union happens, both individuals have already undergone enormous transformation. But healing rarely happens in a straight line. There are layers within layers. Some wounds are obvious and easy to recognize. Others are subtle, hidden beneath years of coping mechanisms and emotional protection. When two twin flames finally come together, the depth of their connection often creates a unique environment where those deeper layers begin to surface. And this is where the real healing begins. The twin flame relationship is often described as a mirror, but it is more than just a reflection of the surface personality. It reflects the deeper emotional patterns that shape how we experience love. Imagine someone who spent much of their life feeling responsible for other people's happiness. As a child, they may have learned that love meant taking care of everyone else's needs first. During their personal healing journey, they worked hard to build boundaries and develop self-respect. They believed they had fully overcome this pattern. Then union happens. In the early days of the relationship, everything feels balanced. Both partners communicate openly and support each other's independence. But over time, small moments begin to reveal something deeper. When their twin flame experiences stress or emotional difficulty, they feel a strong urge to fix the situation, to take responsibility, to make everything better. Without realizing it, the old pattern begins to reappear. But this time, something is different, because the twin flame connection invites awareness. Instead of continuing the pattern unconsciously, they begin to notice it. They pause. They ask themselves why they feel responsible for emotions that do not belong to them. And through honest conversations with their partner, they slowly learn a new way of relating. They learn that love does not require self-sacrifice. It requires mutual support and understanding. This is the kind of healing that often happens in union. Not dramatic emotional explosions, but subtle shifts in awareness that gradually transform the way two people relate to each other. Sometimes healing appears through vulnerability. For example, one partner may carry a fear of emotional abandonment that began long before they ever met their twin flame. Even though the relationship is strong, moments of insecurity might still appear. Perhaps their partner becomes quiet after a difficult day. Or perhaps life becomes busy and communication briefly slows down. Old fears whisper in the background. What if they leave? What if the connection disappears? Before union, these fears might have triggered separation or emotional withdrawal. But in union, something new becomes possible. Instead of running from the fear, they choose honesty. They share their feelings openly. And their partner responds not with judgment, but with understanding. In that moment, healing occurs. Not because the fear magically disappears, but because the experience rewrites the emotional memory. The soul begins to understand that vulnerability does not lead to abandonment. It leads to deeper connection. Over time, moments like this accumulate. Small acts of honesty, small demonstrations of trust, small moments of emotional courage. Together, they gradually dissolve patterns that once seemed impossible to change. And this process creates a different kind of intimacy. An intimacy that is not based only on romance or attraction, but on emotional safety. When two people know they can reveal their fears without being rejected, something powerful happens. They stop hiding parts of themselves. They stop pretending to be stronger than they feel. They begin to show up fully. And when two souls meet each other in this space of authenticity, love deepens in ways that go far beyond surface-level connection. This is why healing in union can feel both gentle and profound. There may not always be dramatic breakthroughs. Sometimes the transformation happens quietly, in the way two people listen to each other, in the patience they show during difficult conversations, in the compassion they offer when old wounds resurface. Over time, the relationship itself becomes a healing environment, a place where both individuals feel safe enough to grow, safe enough to change, safe enough to become more honest versions of themselves. And this healing does not happen in only one direction. Both partners participate in the process. Each person brings their own history, their own emotional patterns, and their own lessons into the relationship. Sometimes one partner becomes the teacher. Other times, the roles reverse. But in truth, both individuals are always learning. Because healing is not about one person fixing the other. It is about two people supporting each other's journey toward wholeness. In many ways, union transforms healing from a solitary process into a shared one. Before union, each person walks their path alone. After union, they walk side by side, not carrying each other's burdens, but helping each other see the path more clearly. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of the twin flame connection. Love becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a force that gently guides both souls toward deeper understanding. And through that understanding, something remarkable happens. The wounds that once defined them begin to lose their power. Not because they were erased, but because they were finally seen, acknowledged, and healed through compassion. So, if you ever find yourself wondering whether healing should be finished once union arrives, remember this truth. Healing is not something we complete and leave behind. It is something we continue to explore as we grow. Union simply provides a powerful space where that exploration can happen more deeply than ever before. Two souls learning, two hearts opening, two people discovering that love is not the end of the healing journey. It is the place where the deepest healing finally becomes possible. One of the most powerful aspects of the twin flame journey is something that many people do not fully understand until they experience it themselves. Your twin flame does not simply love you. Your twin flame reflects you. This idea is often described using the word mirror. But the meaning of that mirror goes far deeper than most people expect. In everyday relationships, it is easy to hide certain parts of ourselves. We present the version of who we think we should be: confident, composed, emotionally stable. We reveal our strengths while quietly protecting our vulnerabilities. But the twin flame connection does something different. It creates a bond so deep that hiding becomes almost impossible. Your twin flame begins to reflect not only your strengths, but also the parts of yourself that you may have avoided seeing. And this mirroring does not stop once union happens. In fact, in many ways, union strengthens the mirror. Before union, much of the mirroring happens through distance. You may notice how your emotions shift when you think about your twin flame. Their actions during the running and chasing phases trigger intense introspection. Their absence forces you to look inward. But after union, the mirror becomes immediate. Now the reflection happens in real time. Through conversations, through reactions, through the small daily interactions that shape any close relationship. At first, this can feel both beautiful and challenging. Because when someone sees you so clearly, it becomes difficult to ignore the parts of yourself that still need attention. Imagine two people who have finally reached union after years of growth. Both have worked on themselves. Both have learned valuable lessons about love, independence, and emotional maturity. Yet one day, a simple situation reveals something unexpected. Perhaps one partner makes a casual comment during a conversation, nothing intentionally hurtful, but the other suddenly feels a wave of defensiveness, a reaction that feels stronger than the situation itself.
Why?
Because the comment touched an old insecurity that had been quietly hidden beneath the surface. In that moment, the twin flame mirror appears. The reaction is not really about the comment. It is about the deeper belief that still exists inside. Perhaps the belief says, "I am not good enough." Or maybe, "I must always prove my worth." Without the mirror, this belief might remain invisible for years. But within the twin flame connection, it becomes visible. And once something becomes visible, it can finally be healed. This is one of the profound purposes of the mirror. It reveals emotional patterns that might otherwise remain unconscious. And when two people approach this process with awareness, the mirror becomes a powerful tool for growth. Instead of blaming each other for emotional reactions, they begin asking deeper questions. Why did that moment affect me so strongly? What part of my past might still be influencing how I respond today? What belief about myself is being revealed right now? These questions open the door to self-understanding. And through that understanding, the relationship becomes stronger. But the mirror works in both directions. Just as your twin flame reflects your inner world, you also reflect theirs. Sometimes you may notice moments when your partner reacts in ways that seem confusing. Perhaps they withdraw during conflict. Perhaps they become quiet when emotions grow intense. Instead of interpreting these reactions as rejection, the mirror invites compassion. You begin to ask, what might this reaction be protecting? What past experience could have created this response? Through this lens, the relationship shifts. It becomes less about proving who is right, and more about understanding what each person is feeling beneath the surface. This is where emotional intimacy deepens. Because when two people stop seeing each other as opponents in moments of tension, they begin to see each other as partners in healing. The mirror then becomes less threatening. Instead of exposing flaws, it reveals opportunities. Opportunities to replace old patterns with healthier ones. Opportunities to communicate more honestly. Opportunities to grow together. Consider a simple example. Imagine that one partner has always struggled with expressing vulnerability. In past relationships, they learned that showing emotions often led to criticism or misunderstanding. As a result, they developed the habit of hiding their feelings. During the early stages of union, this pattern may still appear. When something painful happens, they might withdraw instead of speaking openly. But their twin flame notices the pattern, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Instead of pushing for answers or reacting with frustration, they create space for honesty. They gently encourage conversation. Over time, the partner who once struggled with vulnerability begins to feel safe enough to open up. And through that process, an old emotional barrier slowly dissolves. This is the quiet power of the mirror. It does not force transformation. It invites it. And when both individuals respond to that invitation with patience and compassion, the relationship becomes a place of continuous growth. Of course, this process is not always easy. Seeing yourself clearly can be uncomfortable. There may be moments when the mirror reflects something you wish were not there. A fear you thought you had overcome. A pattern you hoped was gone. A belief about yourself that no longer serves you. But these moments are not failures. They are opportunities. Because every pattern that becomes visible can be transformed. Every belief that comes into awareness can be questioned. And every emotional reaction can become a doorway to deeper understanding. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. The mirror that once felt intense becomes a source of wisdom. Instead of resisting it, both partners begin to value it. They understand that the reflections they see in each other are guiding them toward a more authentic version of themselves. The relationship becomes more than companionship. It becomes a path of self-discovery. A path where love encourages honesty. Where honesty leads to healing. And where healing creates deeper connection. This is one of the reasons why the twin flame journey continues long after union. Because the mirror never stops reflecting. As both individuals grow, new layers of awareness appear. New insights emerge. New opportunities for transformation arise. And through it all, the connection continues to evolve. Not because the relationship is perfect, but because it is alive. Alive with awareness. Alive with honesty. Alive with the willingness to keep growing. So when people ask what makes the twin flame connection so unique, the answer often lies in this simple truth. Your twin flame does not just walk beside you. They help you see yourself clearly. And through that reflection, both souls are invited to become something greater than they were before. Not by avoiding the mirror, but by learning how to look into it with courage, compassion, and love. When people speak about love, they often imagine it as something static, a feeling that appears, grows strong, and then remains the same forever. In this vision, Love is like a beautiful photograph captured at the perfect moment. Two people smiling. Two hearts connected. Everything frozen in a state of happiness. But real love, especially within the twin flame journey, is not a photograph. It is a living process. It breathes. It changes. It grows. And when twin flames reach union, love does not settle into a permanent form. Instead, it begins to evolve in ways that many people never expected. This evolution is one of the most important aspects of the journey, yet it is rarely discussed. Many people assume that once two twin flames finally come together, the relationship will remain exactly as it felt during the magical first moments of union. But the truth is that the initial phase of union is only the beginning. The connection continues to unfold, revealing new layers of emotional depth and spiritual understanding over time. To understand this evolution, it helps to think about how love changes throughout life. In the beginning of most relationships, love is often driven by excitement and discovery. Everything feels new, intense, and full of possibility. Conversations last for hours. Every shared experience feels meaningful. The connection feels almost effortless. This stage is sometimes called the honeymoon phase, and it exists in many relationships, including twin flame connections. However, as time moves forward, the relationship naturally enters a new stage. The novelty fades. Daily routines appear. Responsibilities and external pressures begin to shape the rhythm of life. And this is where the deeper evolution of love begins. Instead of relying on excitement alone, the relationship starts to grow through intentional connection. Love becomes less about emotional intensity and more about presence. Less about dramatic moments and more about quiet consistency. In the twin flame journey, this stage can feel both grounding and transformative. The two people are no longer only experiencing the spark of reunion. They are learning how to build something lasting together. Imagine two twin flames who have recently entered union. During the first months, everything feels magical. The connection seems effortless, as if the universe itself arranged every moment perfectly. But as time passes, life slowly returns to its normal rhythm. Work schedules become busy. Personal responsibilities demand attention. Stress from the outside world occasionally enters the relationship. And in these moments, the nature of love begins to change. At first, this shift can feel confusing. Some people wonder whether the magic is fading. They ask themselves, why doesn't the connection feel as intense as it did in the beginning? But the answer lies in understanding the difference between intensity and depth. Intensity often belongs to the early stages of connection. It is fueled by excitement, discovery, and emotional novelty. Depth, however, develops slowly. It is built through shared experiences, honest conversations, and the steady commitment to grow together. Depth does not replace love. It strengthens it. Consider a simple example. In the early stage of union, a couple might spend hours talking late into the night, exploring every thought and feeling they have. But as the relationship evolves, their connection may appear quieter. They may sit together in comfortable silence. They may share small daily routines. They may support each other through ordinary moments rather than dramatic experiences. From the outside, this might seem less exciting. But in reality, something far more meaningful is developing. Trust. A deep trust that allows both people to relax into the relationship without fear. They no longer feel the need to constantly prove their love. They know it exists. And that knowledge creates stability. This stability becomes the foundation for a new stage of love, a stage where both individuals feel free to grow without threatening the connection. Because real love does not hold people in place. It encourages expansion. Within the twin flame journey, this expansion often becomes one of the most beautiful aspects of union. Each partner begins to pursue their individual passions and dreams, supported by the presence of the other. Instead of feeling limited by the relationship, they feel empowered by it. One partner might discover a new creative path. The other might pursue personal growth in unexpected ways. Rather than pulling them apart, these individual journeys strengthen the bond between them. Why? Because both people understand that love is not about possession. It is about partnership. And partnership allows two individuals to evolve while remaining deeply connected. This is where the evolution of love reveals its true purpose. Love is not meant to freeze people in a single moment of happiness. It is meant to guide them through transformation. Think about how human beings change throughout life. Our perspectives shift. Our priorities evolve. Our understanding of ourselves deepens. If love remained static, it would eventually become disconnected from who we are becoming. But when love evolves alongside us, it continues to feel alive. It grows with us. It adapts to the person we are becoming. Twin flames often experience this dynamic very strongly, because their connection is rooted not only in emotion but also in spiritual growth. As both individuals continue their personal evolution, the relationship evolves with them. New conversations emerge. New shared goals appear. New dimensions of understanding open between them. Sometimes the relationship becomes more peaceful. Sometimes it becomes more purposeful. Sometimes it becomes a source of inspiration for others. But whatever form it takes, the love continues to expand. And this expansion reveals something important. Union is not about preserving a perfect moment forever. It is about creating a relationship strong enough to grow through time. A relationship that can move through different phases without losing its essence. A relationship where both people understand that change is not a threat. It is a natural part of life. When twin flames embrace this truth, they stop trying to recreate the intensity of the early stages. Instead, they begin to appreciate the deeper beauty of what the connection has become. A partnership built on trust. A bond strengthened by shared growth. A love that continues to evolve. And this evolution never truly stops. Because as long as both souls continue to grow, the relationship will grow with them. New challenges will appear. New insights will emerge. New levels of understanding will unfold. And through it all, love will continue to transform, not by fading, but by becoming more mature, more compassionate, and more profound with each passing year. So, if you ever find yourself wondering whether the magic of union has changed over time, remember this. Love was never meant to stay the same. Its true beauty lies in its ability to evolve, to deepen,
to expand,
and to guide two souls through a lifetime of transformation together. For many people walking the twin flame path, the story seems simple at first.
two souls meet.
They feel an intense connection that cannot easily be explained. Then comes the chaos, separation, emotional growth, spiritual awakening, and the long process of healing. And finally, after everything they have endured, they imagine the ultimate moment, union. In that moment, the journey appears complete. But something remarkable often begins to unfold after the initial excitement of union settles. A quiet realization slowly emerges. The connection between twin flames was never meant to exist only for the two individuals involved. There is often a larger purpose waiting beyond the relationship itself. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame journey. Many people believe the purpose of the connection is simply to find each other, to love each other, to build a life together. And while these elements are certainly part of the story, they are rarely the full picture. For many twin flames, union is the moment when a deeper question begins to appear. Why were we brought together in the first place? At first, this question may arise quietly, perhaps during a moment of reflection, perhaps during a conversation late at night when both people feel the depth of their connection, or perhaps through a shared experience where they realize their relationship seems to inspire or impact others in unexpected ways. Little by little, they begin to sense that their love carries an energy that extends beyond themselves. This realization does not always appear as a dramatic revelation. Often it develops gradually. Two people who have spent years growing individually suddenly find themselves standing side by side with a shared perspective on life. Both have confronted their fears. Both have questioned their identities. Both have gone through profound emotional transformation. Because of this, their conversations begin to shift. Instead of focusing only on personal happiness, they begin asking deeper questions about meaning and contribution. What kind of impact do we want to have on the world? How can we use what we have learned to help others? Is there a purpose behind everything we experienced on this journey? For some twin flames, these questions lead toward creative expression. They may feel inspired to write, create art, share their story, or explore projects that reflect the depth of their experiences. For others, the mission may appear in more subtle ways. Perhaps they become mentors for people navigating similar emotional struggles. Perhaps their relationship becomes an example of conscious love for those around them. Perhaps they simply bring greater compassion and understanding into their communities. The form of the mission is different for every pair, but the underlying pattern often feels similar. Union creates a sense of shared purpose. To understand why this happens, it helps to consider what both individuals have experienced before reaching union. The twin flame journey is rarely easy. It forces people to confront parts of themselves they might have avoided for years. They face fears of abandonment. They question their beliefs about love. They learn to stand alone before they can stand together. All of these experiences create profound personal growth. By the time union occurs, both individuals often carry a level of emotional awareness that is uncommon in many relationships. They have learned how to communicate honestly. They understand the importance of self-reflection. They know how to move through conflict without destroying the connection. These lessons become valuable not only for their relationship, but also for the world around them. Because in a world where many relationships struggle with misunderstanding, fear, and emotional disconnection, conscious love becomes powerful. Sometimes twin flames discover that their relationship naturally inspires others. Friends may notice the depth of their communication. Family members may observe how they support each other's growth. Even strangers might feel drawn to the authenticity of their connection. And in those moments, the mission begins to reveal itself, not as a responsibility forced upon them, but as a natural extension of who they have become. Consider a simple example. Imagine two people who spent years navigating the challenges of the twin flame journey. Both experienced painful separations. Both faced deep emotional healing. Eventually, they reach union and begin building a life together. At first, they simply enjoy the peace of finally being together. But one day, a friend confides in them about a difficult relationship. Instead of offering simple advice, they share insights from their own journey. They speak about patience, about personal growth, about the importance of understanding one's own emotional patterns. Their friend feels something shift. For the first time, the relationship problem begins to make sense. Moments like this often become the beginning of a larger realization. The experiences they once saw as painful and confusing now hold meaning. Those experiences created wisdom, and that wisdom has the power to help others. For some twin flames, this realization grows into something larger. They may start sharing their story publicly. They may create content that helps people understand emotional growth and conscious relationships. They may work in fields connected to healing, counseling, or spiritual development. But it is important to understand something. A twin flame mission does not always require public visibility. Sometimes the mission exists in simple daily interactions. A conversation that changes someone's perspective. A moment of kindness that helps another person feel seen. A relationship that quietly demonstrates what healthy love can look like. In many ways, the mission of twin flames is simply to embody the lessons they have learned. To live with authenticity. To communicate with honesty. To show compassion not only for each other, but also for the world around them. When two people live this way, their presence naturally influences others. And that influence creates ripples far beyond the relationship itself. This is why many twin flames feel a strong sense of alignment after union. Life begins to feel more purposeful. Decisions feel guided by a deeper sense of meaning. The relationship becomes more than companionship. It becomes a shared journey of contribution. Of course, this mission does not eliminate challenges. Life will still present obstacles. External pressures may still appear. But the presence of a shared purpose often strengthens the connection. Because the relationship is no longer focused only on personal fulfillment. It becomes part of something larger. Two people supporting each other not only in love but also in growth, service, and impact. And this is one of the most beautiful truths of the twin flame journey. The connection begins with intense personal transformation, but it does not end there. Eventually, the love between two people begins to radiate outward. It becomes a source of inspiration, a demonstration of what is possible when two individuals commit to healing, growth, and conscious connection. So when people ask what happens after union, the answer often surprises them. The journey does not end. In many ways, the real purpose is only beginning. Two souls who once searched for each other now begin walking forward together.
Not only for themselves,
but for the quiet, meaningful impact their love can have on the world around them. When people imagine the moment of twin flame union, they often picture a life where difficulties finally disappear. After years of emotional intensity, separation, healing, and spiritual awakening, the idea of finally being together feels like reaching a peaceful destination. And in many ways, union does bring a sense of relief. The longing that once filled the heart begins to soften. The uncertainty that once dominated the journey becomes clearer. Two souls who spent so much time searching, questioning, and growing finally stand side by side. But as time passes, something important becomes clear. Union does not remove challenges from life. Instead, it introduces a new kind of challenge. Not the painful chaos of separation, but the real, human work of building a life together. This realization can surprise many people, because before union, the connection often feels almost mystical. Synchronicities appear. Dreams feel vivid. The emotional bond seems to exist beyond ordinary reality. But after union, the connection must find its place within everyday life. And everyday life is rarely simple. Work responsibilities continue. Financial pressures appear. Family dynamics influence decisions. Personal habits and lifestyles begin to interact. The relationship that once existed primarily on an energetic level now becomes part of the physical world. And the physical world requires practical effort. This is where many twin flames encounter the next stage of growth, learning how to transform spiritual connection into real partnership. Imagine two people who spent years separated, feeling each other's energy from afar. During that time, their connection may have felt almost perfect. Distance sometimes creates an idealized image of love. But when two people finally share daily life, they begin to see each other more clearly. Not only as spiritual mirrors, but as human beings. Human beings with preferences, habits, emotional rhythms, and personal challenges. Perhaps one partner is naturally organized and structured. The other may be spontaneous and flexible. One might prefer quiet evenings at home. The other might feel energized by social interaction and new experiences. None of these differences are wrong. They are simply expressions of individuality. But when two lives merge, these differences can create tension if they are not understood. And this is one of the first challenges that appears after union. Learning how to respect individuality while building a shared life. In ordinary relationships, differences sometimes lead to frustration or distance. But conscious twin flames often approach these moments differently, because they understand something important. Their connection was never meant to erase who they are as individuals. It was meant to help them grow while remaining authentic. So instead of trying to change each other, they begin exploring compromise. They ask questions. They learn each other's emotional language. They discover new ways to create balance between their different perspectives. Sometimes the challenges are practical. For example, one partner may be deeply focused on career growth, while the other may prioritize emotional connection and shared time. Without awareness, this difference could easily create conflict. But within a conscious union, these differences become opportunities for communication. One partner learns to express their need for presence and emotional connection. The other learns how to maintain ambition while still nurturing the relationship. Through these conversations, a deeper understanding develops, and the relationship becomes stronger. But practical differences are not the only challenges that appear after union. Life itself continues to bring unexpected situations. Health concerns, career changes, Family responsibilities. Moments of uncertainty about the future. These experiences happen to everyone, regardless of their spiritual path. What makes the twin flame union unique is how the couple navigates these moments. Instead of seeing difficulties as threats to the relationship, they begin to view them as shared obstacles to overcome together. This shift in perspective changes everything. Rather than asking, "Why is this happening to us?" they ask, "How can we grow through this?" Imagine a moment when financial stress suddenly appears in their lives. Perhaps a job changes unexpectedly. Perhaps a business plan does not work as intended. Situations like this can create tension in any relationship. Fear and uncertainty can easily trigger emotional reactions. But within a conscious union, these moments often reveal the strength of the bond. Instead of blaming each other, they begin to support each other. One partner may offer emotional reassurance. The other may focus on finding practical solutions. Together, they face the situation not as individuals under pressure, but as a team. And this teamwork becomes one of the greatest strengths of the relationship. Over time, they begin to trust that no matter what challenges appear, they will face them side by side. This trust creates a sense of stability that grows stronger with every obstacle they overcome. But perhaps the most interesting challenge after union is something more subtle: the challenge of continuing personal growth. Before union, much of the journey focuses on individual healing and self-discovery. After union, it can sometimes be tempting to relax into the comfort of the relationship, to feel that the hardest part of the journey is over. But growth does not stop simply because love has been found. In fact, union often creates new opportunities for personal evolution. Each partner continues to change as life unfolds. New interests develop, new dreams appear, new perspectives emerge. If the relationship becomes too rigid, these changes can feel threatening. But when the relationship remains flexible, change becomes exciting. Two people grow not only as a couple, but also as individuals. They encourage each other's development rather than fearing it. This balance between unity and individuality becomes one of the defining qualities of a healthy twin flame union. They are deeply connected, yet still free to explore their personal paths. Together, they build something stable. Individually, they continue evolving. And this balance creates a relationship that feels both secure and alive. Because the truth is, no relationship can avoid challenges forever. Life will always introduce new circumstances. But challenges are not signs that the connection is weakening. Often, they are signs that the relationship is maturing. Every challenge faced with honesty strengthens trust. Every obstacle overcome together deepens the bond. Every moment of understanding builds resilience. Over time, the couple begins to see these challenges differently. Instead of fearing them, they recognize their role in the evolution of the relationship. Challenges shape the connection. They reveal its strength. They teach patience, empathy, and cooperation. And through these experiences, love becomes more than a beautiful feeling. It becomes a reliable foundation. A foundation that supports both partners through the unpredictable journey of life. So, when people imagine what happens after union, it is important to remember this. Union does not remove challenges from the path, but it changes how those challenges are faced. Two people who once struggled alone now walk through life together, not as perfect individuals, but as partners who are willing to learn, adapt, and grow. And in many ways, that shared resilience becomes one of the most powerful expressions of love. As the twin flame journey unfolds beyond union, many people begin to recognize a truth that changes how they see love forever. Love was never meant to be a final destination. It was meant to be a path that continues to unfold long after the moment of reunion. At the beginning of the journey, many people focus intensely on reaching union. The longing to be with the person who feels like the other half of their soul becomes the central goal. Everything seems to point toward that one moment. The emotional storms, the separation, the endless inner work. All of it appears to lead toward a single outcome: finally being together. But once union happens and life begins to settle into a new rhythm, something deeper becomes clear. The relationship itself becomes a living journey, not a reward for completing spiritual lessons, but an ongoing space where new lessons continue to appear. And these lessons are not punishments. They are opportunities. Opportunities to grow into a deeper understanding of love, connection, and self-awareness. One of the first realizations that many twin flames encounter after union is that love evolves alongside personal growth. Human beings are constantly changing. Our values shift. Our perspectives expand. Our understanding of ourselves becomes more refined with time and experience. If love were meant to remain fixed in a single moment, it would eventually feel disconnected from the people experiencing it. But when love is allowed to evolve, it grows with the individuals involved. It adapts to the new versions of who they are becoming. This is why the twin flame union often feels alive and dynamic. It is not a static connection. It is a relationship that expands as both souls continue their journey of self-discovery. Imagine two people who have been in union for several years. When they first reunited, their relationship was centered around healing old wounds and learning how to communicate honestly. Those early years required patience, vulnerability, and deep emotional work. But as time passes, those initial challenges begin to transform. The relationship becomes more stable. Trust becomes natural. Emotional safety develops between them. And once this foundation exists, new possibilities begin to appear. Perhaps one partner begins to explore a new creative passion. Maybe they discover a talent for writing, music, or art that had previously remained hidden. The other partner may begin pursuing personal growth in different ways, studying philosophy, exploring spiritual practices, or developing new career ambitions. As both individuals evolve, the relationship evolves with them. Their conversations change. Their shared goals shift. Their understanding of life becomes deeper. Instead of feeling threatened by these changes, conscious twin flames begin to celebrate them. Because they understand something important. Love is not meant to keep people the same. Love is meant to support transformation. And when both partners encourage each other's growth, the relationship becomes more vibrant rather than less stable. This dynamic creates a sense of freedom within the connection. Each person knows they are loved not only for who they were when the relationship began, but also for who they are becoming. This acceptance allows both individuals to continue evolving without fear. Over time, something beautiful begins to emerge. The relationship becomes a place where personal evolution feels supported rather than restricted. And this creates a unique type of intimacy. Not only emotional closeness, but also intellectual and spiritual partnership. Two people growing side by side, sharing ideas, exploring life together, encouraging each other to reach higher levels of understanding. In this environment, love becomes more than affection. It becomes a shared path of discovery. Sometimes this discovery involves learning how to navigate life's inevitable changes. Perhaps one partner experiences a career shift that requires relocation. Perhaps unexpected responsibilities arise that alter the rhythm of daily life. Perhaps personal priorities evolve as both individuals gain new insights about what truly matters. Instead of resisting these changes, conscious twin flames approach them with curiosity. They ask questions like, how can we adapt to this new chapter together? What can we learn from this experience? How can this change help us grow individually and as a couple? These questions transform challenges into opportunities. Instead of seeing change as a threat to the relationship, they see it as part of the journey. And through this mindset, love continues to evolve. But perhaps the most profound transformation occurs in how both individuals begin to understand the nature of love itself. In the early stages of life, many people believe love is something that happens to them, a powerful emotion that appears when the right person enters their life. But through the twin flame journey, love begins to reveal itself differently. It becomes something that is actively created through patience, through empathy, through conscious choices made every day. Love is no longer dependent on emotional highs. It becomes rooted in commitment and awareness. This shift marks a deeper stage of maturity within the relationship. The connection is no longer driven only by passion or destiny. It is sustained by intention. Both individuals choose, again and again, to nurture the bond between them. And this choice becomes one of the most powerful aspects of the journey. Because true love is not simply found. It is continuously built. Every act of kindness strengthens it. Every honest conversation deepens it. Every moment of understanding reinforces the trust between two souls. Over time, this process creates something extraordinary. A relationship that feels both stable and alive. Stable because it is built on trust and shared experience. Alive because it continues to grow and adapt as life unfolds. This is why the twin flame union never truly becomes stagnant. There are always new layers to explore, new insights to discover, new ways to express love. And through this continuous evolution, the relationship becomes something more than companionship. It becomes a lifelong journey of growth. Two people learning, two people evolving, two people discovering new aspects of themselves and each other with every passing year. And perhaps this is the deepest truth of the twin flame path. Union was never meant to mark the end of transformation. It was meant to create a partnership capable of continuing that transformation indefinitely. Love becomes the vehicle through which both souls continue expanding, not because they are searching for something missing, but because growth itself becomes part of the joy of being together. So when someone asks whether the journey ends after union, the answer becomes beautifully simple.
No.
The journey does not end. It expands. And within that expansion, love reveals its greatest purpose, guiding two souls through a lifetime of continuous evolution. Many people imagine twin flame union as the ultimate destination, a final moment, a finish line, the point where the long, painful journey suddenly transforms into peace, harmony, and eternal happiness. But the deeper truth is something very different. Union is not the end of the journey. Union is the moment the real journey begins. Because when two twin flames finally stand face to face without running, without hiding, and without trying to control each other, something powerful happens. The mirror becomes permanent. And once the mirror is permanent, growth never stops. Union removes illusions. Before union, much of the twin flame journey is built around longing. The chaser longs for reunion. The runner longs for freedom. Both long for something they cannot fully understand. During separation, many people believe, once we reunite, everything will be perfect. But union gently dissolves this illusion. Because the truth is that two souls can love each other deeply and still be challenged by life. They can still face old wounds. They can still experience moments of fear, insecurity, and vulnerability. Union does not erase humanity. Instead, it awakens a deeper level of honesty. Suddenly, there is no distance to hide behind. No fantasy version of the other person. No imagined future to escape into. There is only the reality of two evolving souls learning how to walk the path together. The mirror becomes stronger in union. Ironically, the mirror effect between twin flames does not disappear after union. It becomes stronger.
Why?
Because proximity amplifies awareness. Every reaction, every emotion, every moment of tension reveals something about the inner self. Imagine two musicians learning to play together. When they are far apart, each can practice alone. But when they finally sit in the same room and perform together, every mistake becomes visible. Not as punishment, but as an opportunity to improve harmony. Twin flames experience something similar. Union reveals the remaining areas of imbalance. Not to break the connection, but to refine it. The journey of continuous healing. One of the biggest misunderstandings about twin flame union is the belief that healing is finished. In reality, healing becomes deeper. During separation, healing often happens individually. People work on self-love, boundaries, independence, and spiritual growth. But in union, healing becomes relational. Old patterns appear in subtle ways. Fear of abandonment. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of losing independence. Fear of repeating past pain. These emotions are not signs that union is failing. They are signs that deeper layers of healing are emerging. Just as a wound sometimes needs multiple treatments to fully recover, the soul also heals in layers. Union simply reveals the layers that were still hidden. A story about growing after union. Consider the story of Maya and Daniel. After years of separation, misunderstandings, and personal transformation, they finally reunited. At first, everything felt magical. Conversations flowed effortlessly. Their connection felt familiar, peaceful, and deeply aligned. But a few months later, subtle challenges began to appear. Daniel sometimes withdrew into silence when overwhelmed. Maya occasionally felt anxious when he needed space. At first, they worried something was wrong. If we're twin flames, Maya wondered, why do we still struggle? But over time, they discovered something important. The struggles were not signs of failure. They were invitations to grow. Instead of reacting with fear, they began approaching these moments with curiosity. Daniel learned to communicate his need for solitude without disappearing emotionally. Maya learned to trust the connection without interpreting space as rejection. Each challenge became a doorway to greater understanding. And slowly, their bond became stronger than either of them had imagined. Not because it was perfect, but because it was conscious. Union requires emotional maturity. A successful twin flame union requires something deeper than passion. It requires maturity, emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, the maturity to pause before reacting, the courage to speak truth without blame, the humility to admit when ego is interfering with love. Many people reach union believing the connection itself will solve everything, but the connection only opens the door. The work still belongs to the individuals. Union asks two souls to grow together rather than depend on each other for completion. Growth becomes shared. One of the most beautiful aspects of union is that growth becomes collaborative. Before union, the journey can feel lonely. Each twin flame must face their shadows individually. But in union, something changes. You're no longer growing for reunion. You're growing together. One person's transformation inspires the other. One person's courage creates space for the other to evolve. Instead of triggering separation, challenges become opportunities for deeper alignment. This is when the relationship transforms from emotional connection into spiritual partnership. Union expands the soul's purpose. Another surprising truth about twin flame union is that it often activates a larger purpose. Many twin flames feel called to create something together. Healing work, creative projects, spiritual teaching,
Community building.
acts of service. This doesn't always mean a public mission. Sometimes the purpose is simply living as an example of conscious love. But when two aligned energies unite, their combined presence naturally influences the world around them. Union becomes a force that radiates outward. The infinite nature of the journey. Perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this. The twin flame journey has no final destination. There is always another level of awareness, another level of love, another level of growth. Union does not close the book. It simply opens a new chapter. A chapter where two souls walk side by side instead of searching from opposite directions. And in that shared path, something extraordinary happens. Love stops being a goal. Love becomes a way of living. A question for the soul. So, ask yourself something honestly. If union arrived in your life today, would you see it as the end of the journey? Or the beginning of a deeper one? Because the truth is that the twin flame path is not about reaching a perfect relationship. It is about becoming a more conscious version of yourself. Union simply gives you a partner who reflects that evolution every step of the way. If you are on the twin flame path, remember this. Union is not a reward. Union is a responsibility, a sacred opportunity to grow, heal, and evolve together. The real magic of this journey is not that two souls finally meet. The real magic is that they keep becoming better versions of themselves long after they meet. And that process never ends. If this message resonated with your journey, take a moment to reflect. Where are you right now on your twin flame path? Are you still in separation? Approaching reunion? Or already experiencing union and discovering the deeper layers of growth it brings? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what another soul needs to hear today. And if you want to explore more insights about twin flame awakening, healing, and union, make sure to subscribe and join this growing community of souls walking the path together.
Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message resonated with your soul, remember to subscribe and continue this journey with us here on Twin Flame Journey. And always remember, what is meant for your soul will always find its way back to you.